Hello, everybody. Welcome in to yet another edition of Unnecessary Wagers. It is another week of NFL and college football. Finally, getting into the college football playoffs. This weekend, Saturday NFL games. Unfortunately, getting close to the end of the NFL and college season, but now we get into the really good stuff. Nick, how are you doing?
All right, I'm really sick. I'm sick as a dog, but I'm still having a better week than Sharon Moore. So
Yeah,
could be
yeah.
worse.
So
Could be worse.
yeah. So Michigan has fired their coach. Obviously, I know that you've talked about that at nauseum with the other shows that you do on Leftovers on Forever Power Five and on MTGP. It was one of the more like crazy, maybe like 12-hour news cycles of what had happened, or not even 12-hour, like 12 hours before we really found out everything, but like from him being fired straight to him being arrested. Um, it was one of the more crazy, like unexpected moments of of the year, but like of it happening so quickly.
Yeah. And the funny thing was, I remember there was a tweet from Sharon Moore that said from like 2012 that said like there's always more ladies or something like that. It was a really
He said, "I know there's a lot of sore ladies out there."
yeah. And that was like making the rounds on social media. Uh, yeah, that's got to be a really expensive affair. And this is not new with college coaches. For some reason, college coaches feel the need to have affairs in their own office.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, you would think, I guess it's because they spend so much time working and they don't have much of a life outside of it that they feel like they don't have much of a choice but to have affairs in their office. I mean, Bobby Petrino did the same thing. Rick Pitino did the same thing. Like, there's just a lot of, for some reason, this seems to be a pretty common thing with college football coaches. You know what? I remember when I woke up to that. First of all, I woke up to the Sharon Moore news and to the Pete Alonso news. Um, and obviously, the Alonso news was not really all that surprising because there were rumblings about that for a long time. The Sharon Moore news, when I found out he was fired, I was like, okay, there's something not right here because nobody in the world had Sharon Moore on like the hot seat. Nobody was saying that.
Yeah, I mean, he would have been on an extremely hot seat next season if he had stayed, but yes.
You think so?
Yes.
Well, that's possible. I think it's possible he would have been on a hot seat depending on how the season went, but he certainly wasn't on a hot seat this year.
Well, but I know that it wasn't. Now, that was surprising to us, but it sounded like from everything said on television that it was surprising to nobody inside. It sounded like it was not a very heavily guarded secret. So the question now, I am in the camp that this would not have come out and happened the way it did if they had won against Ohio State and were in the college football playoff. I think that's probably obvious.
Yeah, but I think it would have come out after the playoffs.
Well, I don't know if he would have necessarily. I think that this was a partial use of a way to fire him. But yeah, I agree. And they probably were never planning on firing him because they did it so far after a lot of the coaching search had started in the college football world, especially with a lot of the Power Five jobs that were out there already being taken, et cetera.
Yeah, no, I thought that it had nothing. I thought really that it was just because of this story that came out that they had to fire him. Maybe he would have been on the hot seat next year, but overall, Sharon Moore has done a good job as a coach. He's done a really good job. Like going from last year a 7-5 Michigan team to a 9-3 Michigan team who sniffed the playoffs. Like if a few things go a little differently, they could have been a playoff team. And you know what? From where Michigan was last year, the team that almost lost to Arkansas State and could never get the quarterback position right. They went through like 3 different quarterbacks. I have to say Sharon Moore did a pretty good job as a head coach. But the way I see it is that very few coaches could actually get away with what he did. I mean, sure, maybe there's been a few coaches that are powerful enough to the point where they'll sweep it under the rug. but I could count them probably on one hand. Like the number of coaches that could get away with something like that is very, very small. So like him getting fired, because I remember like I saw Craig Carton say he got fired because he wasn't winning, but that's completely ridiculous. Like he was winning. He went 9-3. He had a pretty good season, probably a little better than we thought it would be. So you can't say he wasn't winning. He had a pretty good season.
Yeah. I mean, and I understand that part definitely. I think that I just think this was so. I do agree that this was something that I don't think that they were planning or anything like that. But I do think that it was clear that it was known about because there was a lot of investigation already into it.
Yeah.
So obviously it was something that was known about. And probably what happened in the end is that Moore did something to piss the girl off. And that's when she ended up just coming out with everything. And that's sort of probably what happened in the end.
Yeah. He basically lost his family, his freedom, and his job. Which effectively was like what $13 million a buyout that they don't have to pay him.
Yeah,
all because like if he just had like an affair that had nothing to do with his job, he might lose his family if he gets caught. But at least he's not gonna end up getting arrested, and he's not gonna end up losing his job. So like it's just so unbelievable to me how some of these college coaches who are leaders of young men just can't control themselves. Like that's the most unbelievable part to me, that he just couldn't control himself. And apparently like he got arrested because he broke into the girl's house. And will he look, I think he'll get another coaching opportunity, but he'll probably have to go away for a couple of years. I don't mean like prison, but like he
might literally go away for a couple of years.
He might, but
no, I agree. But yeah, it was that was a crazy situation that now has me extremely, extremely nervous.
And Biff Poggi, their interim head coach. I don't know if you saw him, but he is he almost looks a little bit like Bob Wiley.
Yeah, I've seen him.
And he actually used to be a hedge fund manager. Their interim head coach. In terms of recruiting, I don't think it's going to hurt them that much because they ended up firing Sharon Moore. I think it's just going to be another bump in the road. I mean, they bounced back pretty okay after Harbaugh left. So and losing all their best players. So if they can survive that, I think they can survive this. I mean, it's not like any players are just itching to play under Sharon Moore. So I don't even know if it's going to hurt them that much long term.
Yeah, I'm extremely nervous about the Michigan head coaching search right now. I've actually been like searching like every day because I'm like just stressed about it. But yes, the whole situation is crazy. All right, let's go to.
Well, why are you nervous about the Michigan coaching search? You're not a Michigan.
Dillingham.
Oh, Dillingham. Yeah. But by the way, if you want to talk about weird timing, Matt Campbell, Michigan absolutely would have gone after Matt Campbell. That's what makes me think that maybe it was a poorly kept secret around Michigan, like in Michigan.
It was a poorly kept secret, yeah.
It was a poorly kept secret, obviously, because it ended up coming out. But don't you think that they would have I have a feeling that they didn't plan on firing him because if they
weren't, they weren't planning on firing him. Right, something happened in the 24 hours. But yeah, no, I agree.
Some people are blaming the AD, and it's like I don't really blame the AD. It's not like the AD. Maybe if he knew something, but we have no evidence so far that he knew anything. Just because people at Michigan knew what was going on doesn't mean the AD knew anything. But look, I don't blame the AD for that. I mean, that would be like blaming Kirby Smart for his players constantly getting DUIs. Like, I just don't think that's really totally fair. He handled it the way he was supposed to handle it. As far as I know, the AD did nothing wrong.
All right, so let's talk about the NFL a little bit. It was we didn't do terrific. It was a lot of stuff that I didn't expect in the NFL. I was heavy on the Packers, and I'm sort of that was my lock of the week, and I'm sort of moving more towards more. I've been more not as so much heavy on the Packers, even though I do think the Packers are a good team. Obviously, they have had a bad injury now, but I feel like more so in those recent weeks, I was going against the Broncos. I've never really been that high on the Broncos, but I think that I'm at some point sort of been proven wrong. I mean, I think that the Broncos right now look like the most complete team in the AFC, and I know that there's been a lot of talk about them where it's like, well, they played a lot of these teams close, and like the Giants and the Jets and a few of those games, but I think that's more just to do with the fact that this year there's just a lot of parity in the NFL, and there's just not that dominant team. It doesn't really mean that the Broncos aren't good, as we've seen.
Right. Well, that's the reason I often bet against the Broncos because of that reason. But I don't use that as a way to like bash them or say they're frauds or anything like that. I don't think that's fair either, because you can look at any team and they always have some close games against teams that, I mean, look at the Chiefs last year. I mean, they won 15 games, and one of those losses was on purpose. One of the two losses was literally on purpose. Correct. So being able to win games, close games against lousy teams is a skill in and of itself, and it's an underrated skill. But I also think that if you're constantly in a slugfest with below average teams, I also think you're likely going to get exposed. But with the Broncos, I don't really think there was that much of it. I mean, yes, they almost lost to the Jets and the Giants. I think the thing with the Jets was it was more of a London thing. I think London's a little bit of an equalizer. And the same thing can be said about a lot of teams. Like, look, the Rams lost to the Panthers. Every single one of these teams, you can nitpick and just say it's a little right. That's not a fair way of putting it, but like you could always say, well, this team had this weakness and this happened and that happened. Right. So you could do that with almost any team. I mean,
well, they were playing the Giants too at a time when the Giants were playing their best football of the year. They had just beaten the Eagles.
Yeah.
They would. So I agree with you, and they have more of like I feel like the Broncos right now. If you look at the schedule, they've played they've played the Cowboys, they've played the Colts, even though they lost to them. They've played, obviously their division, and then the AFC North. The point is to say that they've had a much tougher schedule than the Patriots, where I think I'm really still a believer that the Patriots are really they're obviously not a bad team because they have won those games, but I really think that the Patriots are more of a production of their schedule than them being actually a good team, where I think the Broncos have much more proven themselves against much better teams. I mean, it's not even close, the schedule comparison between those two.
Yeah. No, I totally agree. Like, I think the Patriots in the first half of the season, they really were not in good form. I mean, they lost to the Raiders the first week. The Raiders were one of the worst teams. They were even worse than we thought they would be. And they were in a lot of close games against bad teams. Certainly true. But in fairness to the Patriots, in their toughest matchups, they showed up and they won some of those games. So I can't really I think they are a product of their schedule, but when they were tested, they were at least able to win those games, or at least some of those games.
Well, that would bring me to Sunday. So Sunday, obviously the Patriots lost. They had a 21-0 lead. They had a 24-7 lead at half. The big play that's being talked about is the pass interference on the interception on a fourth down. Yeah. I thought it was quite clear pass interference. The defender was not facing the ball. He had his hands on the receiver. Patriot fans were very upset about that. I thought that was one of the clearest pass interferences I'd seen. You can't be – not only was his hands on the defender, but he wasn't facing the ball in the slightest. He didn't try and make a play on the ball in the play. He got lucky to intercept it because of where he was. But other than that, it was a blown game for the Patriots, no question about it.
Yeah. No, I totally agree. I can't stand when people say, well, you can't call it in that spot. Like, if there's something if it's egregious enough, you have to call it.
If people who say that, so if the defender had gotten free, if the wide receiver was free for a touchdown with no one around him, and the defender ripped his jersey down and ripped him to the ground, then so you would still say you can't call that.
It's ridiculous.
That's it's sometimes a ridiculous statement. I agree. Maybe you could call it a little tighter, but that was an obvious one. And the point I wanted to make about this game is, I think right now, at the end of this season, if the Buffalo Bill, I know we just talked about the Broncos being good, and we're just saying the Patriots have a good record. They've shown up for games. If the Buffalo Bills cannot make the Super Bowl this year, I do not think that they will make the Super Bowl with this iteration of this team. This is their widest path. They're going to have no Patrick Mahomes for sure. They're likely not going to have Lamar Jackson. They're not going to have Joe Burrow. They're likely not going to have Lamar Jackson or the Steelers. It's probably going to be, I don't know who's going to win that division yet, but they might not have Lamar Jackson. No Mahomes, no Jackson, no Burrow, and you have the best quarterback right now. They have the best quarterback in the playoffs in the AFC, at least, probably in the whole thing. This is when you have to go out and get there, and
No, I very much agree with that. This is the easiest path they've ever had. Right. The Ravens, I don't think Lamar Jackson, it doesn't seem like he's all that healthy. And even if he
might not even make it.
Yeah, they might not even make it. So with none of the best, because that was the biggest problem with Josh Allen, is that all the best quarterbacks were in his conference. That was the problem. Right. Last year it wasn't a problem with Burrow, but the fact that all of the AFC teams that are set to make the playoffs right now, they are very flawed at quarterback, and they also are teams that don't have a lot of postseason experience. It's true that the Broncos have a much better and the Patriots have a much better regular season record than the Bills. Mm-hmm. But what you have to remember is that the best teams in the NFL are built for late November, December, and January. And those teams might not be built for the playoffs as well. Just like we see it in basketball a lot too. There are teams with great regular season records, and then they turn into a pumpkin once the playoffs come around. So I actually think I agree with you very much. I mean, if you look at all the teams that are set to be in the playoffs right now, so you have hold on, sorry. All right, so here it is. So the Broncos, Patriots, Jaguars, Steelers, Chargers, Bills, and Texans. Look, the Steelers, Aaron Rodgers is really old, and he's not really healthy consistently. The Texans' offense kind of sucks. And do you really trust the Jaguars, Patriots, or Broncos yet? I would say I don't. So
no, I probably trust the one team I would mention there is the Texans. I think also have a terrific defense, but the thing is, the Texans' offense I don't think is enough, and I think that Josh Allen is a guy that could be able to produce something against the Texans defense because he is very mobile, even though he didn't have a great game against them when they played, but playoffs are a little different. But yeah, and then I think on the NFC right now, I think it's as wide open as we've seen, but I would say that the most complete team in football right now, you would have to say, is the Rams.
I agree completely. I think the Rams, and you could argue they have the best quarterback in football right now too.
Right, and the Broncos offensively are not as good as the Rams, so that's why I would say the Rams are more complete than the Broncos.
Yeah, no, I totally agree. I think
they have a quarterback who has a little much more experience in playoffs.
Yeah, I think the loss to the Panthers was really just a little bit of a blip in the radar for the Rams. Right now, I think they look like the best.
It's a blip in the radar, and even like a lot of people might look at the score yesterday and say, "Oh, the Rams gave up 34 points. Their defense is that great." When the defense had to make big stops to win the game, or in the start of the second half to really take control of the game, they forced 3 and outs in a row. So the defense is up to par of the rest of the NFL.
Yeah, and you also have to remember the Lions always get into shootouts. They're getting into shootouts all the time.
Right, and the Lions have the best. The Lions have the best offensive. On paper, the Lions have the best offense in the league.
I would say so.
And and then the last thing I'll say is it was a interesting couple of weeks when we thought that the Cowboys were going to make a serious run and were a really good team, and that's just completely fallen on its face. Back-to-back losses for the Cowboys, back-to-back horrible games for George Pickens, who has just been nowhere to be found, and just not a great performance at all. And they were sort of already on the edge of being out of it once the Eagles won, but it was bad. And I just don't really know like what the Cowboys do from here. I mean, this was a year they probably should have made the playoffs. The Eagles are having a down year. The rest of the NFL just isn't that great. They're able to beat the Eagles. They're able to beat the Chiefs. But you look back at their schedule, they have losses to the Panthers. They got killed today by the Vikings. It was just a really weird year for the Dallas Cowboys.
Yeah, really weird. Yeah, definitely a weird year. They're built a little bit like a fantasy team. They're like really good offense. Their defense sucks, and it looked like their defense was getting a little better. But I think it may have said more about the offenses that they were playing. I mean, is there any way Quinn Williams made that much of a difference? I mean, they got cooked by J.J. McCarthy. Giving up 34 points to the Vikings is pretty bad.
I think a lot of people looked at 3 games, which were against the Raiders, against the Eagles, who is, they had a good game yesterday, but they're playing the Raiders. The Eagles, who are completely offensively inept this year. The Chiefs, who have a horrible offensive line, and looked at that and said, "Oh my God, look at what a difference Quinn Williams made." And then they played the Lions, and it was like, maybe not.
Well, the thing with defense,
not that he didn't make a difference, but that he didn't fully turn this into a good defense.
Well, defenses are not so much like offenses, where offenses are very influenced by individuals a lot more than defenses. Defenses are much more systemic than about individuals. I mean, of course, it's made up of individuals, but like you can have a great defensive player and the whole system just sucks. Just like the Cowboys had with Micah Parsons. Like it's the reason their defense was so bad is not because they traded Micah Parsons. Like their defense being that bad is an issue, like with the system, whatever that is. Not just about Micah Parsons. He would have made it slightly better, but like not much better.
Yes, correct. I mean that to me it was just they had a couple of good weeks, but if you look at their season as a whole and look at their schedule and look at who the rest of the teams were around them, it's a disappointment that they didn't make the playoffs. I mean, it's a disappointment every season with the Dallas Cowboys don't make the playoffs, but this season was bad. The last two things I have to clean up to talk about before we get to the picks. One of them is I have to shout out Joseph Stalin. I'll shout out the Instagram account and then we can add it in our social media if we want. I follow a Instagram account called Classic Parlays, which has about 20,000 followers. It's one of the funniest pages on Instagram, and it is historical figures giving AI speeches in which they give out a parlay. And Joseph Stalin yesterday gave me CeeDee Lamb 50 yards, Javonte Williams 60 yards, or CeeDee Lamb 60 yards, Javonte Williams 50 yards, and TJ Hawkinson 15 plus yards. And that cashed. So I wanted to shout out that Instagram account and Joseph Stalin for handing me one. But the other thing I wanted to say just before we get to the picks, on a scale of 1 to 10, how much do you care if the Knicks win the NBA Cup?
1. I care a 1.
That's one higher than I am.
And people ask me, well, if it's 0 to 10, like I don't care at all, really. Yeah. But like some people have asked, oh, do they hang a banner? I think they should hang a banner, but as a joke. Well, like hang it in a mocking way. That's how I see it.
They wouldn't do that though. They would hang a banner, but they wouldn't do it in a mocking way.
Right, but that's what I'm saying. I think they should do, although it would be hard to like interpret it that way. You know what? My thing with the NBA Cup is that it all counts for the regular season, and it means nothing.
That's the only reason I care. The only reason that I care about NBA Cup games is because they count as a regular season game. Like
right.
I only care about the wins and losses part of it, not.
And they got to fix the courts. Some of the courts are so ugly.
The court idea is stupid. I think. The in-season tournament idea was stupid on its own. I like that the idea of sort of putting a big event in the NBA in Vegas and all this stuff, but I personally do not care about if they win the NBA Cup or not, but I care just about the regular season wins and losses, especially because in the history of the NBA Cup, no team has ever even gotten close to winning both. I think so. It's something that the NBA is trying to grow. I don't think they're doing great with it. The time of year that they do it is horrible.
Yeah, it's a very Adam Silver thing. Sometimes I think Adam Silver is a little too innovative, if that makes sense.
Right.
It's a little bit like when Snapchat is always constantly evolving, and then you're just like, I really like the old Snapchat better. Like that's what the NBA is. Like I like the old system better. And how can there ever be any buzz about the NBA Cup when it's during football season? Like nobody is going to care about the NBA Cup. If anything, you know what I think they should do? If they're going to have an NBA Cup, have it as a tournament so that you can add wins to your regular season if you advance, and it doesn't count like against you if you advance and you lose or something like that. That would make a lot more sense than the way they do it now.
Or the winner is automatically guaranteed a playoff spot.
Something like that. That would make a lot more sense to me.
And I honestly think this is like this might sound like a stupid idea to you, but this is more. They should do more of it with sort of the tail end of the season. They should do this tournament with like the worst teams in the NBA, and if you win it, you get the number one pick. And I like that ideas like that are good, especially because they really move out tanking.
Yeah, no, I totally agree. It's like the worst cooks of America. On the Food Network. But for the NBA, I would like that because I don't want to see teams just tanking all the time, and it's a big problem in the NBA.
It is, and I like to be honest, like and also the two things that were wrong with it, like to be honest, like I watched the Heisman ceremony, and then ASU basketball was playing. Like I was watching ASU basketball. I wasn't like going to go out of my way to go to Amazon Prime, which is another problem they had, to find that Knick game. Like it was Amazon Prime and just all these streaming services. And I understand they're doing a deal with them, but I just didn't that either. I didn't even watch the semifinal game.
I don't have an issue with the streaming so much, but you know what? Unless it's Thursday Night Football, which I will go out of my way to watch, I'm not going out of my way to watch an NBA game on Prime Video. Like I don't care enough about it.
Correct. Especially regular season. I mean, and yeah, it's tough for me to get into it, especially like as someone who cares much more about the gambling aspect than I do about any other sort of aspect of sports. I am not like, I'd rather even forget about football for a second. Like a Saturday in January, I'm watching the college basketball slate.
Yeah. Well, is it because you bet on it? Because like my thing with college basketball is I enjoy it, but situationally, a little bit like baseball. Like I don't watch a whole lot of baseball unless it's like the Mets or maybe the Yankees or like the playoffs. But I don't sit around and watch regular season baseball because I don't like regular season baseball that much.
Right.
It's just something with college basketball. Like I love it in March. I love it in February. I love betting on it. But I don't know a ton about college basketball. I don't view it the same way I view I like the NBA much better because I think the NBA is consistently a better product than college basketball.
Yeah, but college basketball is more exciting, and
you're right.
Not only is it more exciting, but like the product of the NBA sort of gets hurt with the lack of defense now, and going into the regular season, where you have guys who just don't play pretty much. I mean that hurts it too. So. Yeah, I agree. But yes, I don't care about the NBA Cup. All right, let's get into the picks now. That was a recap segment. All right, I'm going to start playoff week, and I am going to start with a team that I have believed in this whole year. I've been talking about it on the show. And I have sort of championed them. We talked about it during the playoff, but I have been mentioning this team for a while. I am taking the Miami Hurricanes +3 at Texas A&M. I've championed my 3.5. Yeah, that's what I said.
Yeah.
I said you said +3. All right, 3.5. +3.5 against Texas A&M. I have championed Miami for a while. I think they're a very good team. I think they have a chance to go in. I think going to College Station was a good draw for them. They're not going to have a big weather problem being from Miami in College Station. I think that Texas A&M has been exposed a little bit. The best team that Texas A&M played this year, they were defeated by in the last week of the season. And I am on Miami right now. I like the number. I think I like them to win outright. So I am going to take the Hurricanes plus the 3.5.
Yeah, I actually kind of like that pick because I think Texas A&M is a very good team. They have a very good offense and a very good situational defense, but they have been exposed a little bit. They have been exposed a little. I'm sorry about the sneeze. All right, I'm not about to sneeze. All right, whatever. They have been exposed a little bit, and I think their biggest problem is that they weren't able to play like a solid full game of football. Like they weren't able to play a full 60 minutes. They played like one half against Texas, and Texas A&M's a really good team. But their toughest game was a non-conference game against Notre Dame, and their second toughest game was against Texas, and they lost that game. So the way I see it is that the weird thing about A&M is that they had almost the easiest possible schedule in the SEC because of the 8 games that they played, the 7 of them were the 7 bottom teams. And the one good SEC team they played was Texas, who was probably the 6th best SEC team. Like they couldn't have gotten an easier schedule in the SEC.
Well, let's not forget the game they won against Notre Dame. Had they have called that obvious holding, they probably wouldn't have won that game.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, which
is one of the more consequential no calls in college football history when you go back and look.
Probably the most consequential no call I can think of. Well, the Texas-Arizona State game last year, that was a really consequential.
Correct. That was a consequential no call. The Michigan-Ohio State, when they spotted the ball as a first down when it was pretty clearly not a first down, and then
you mean 2016?
Yeah, that was one. Yes, one. But the one thing about the Arizona State game was that targeting call would have made it like a 48-yard field goal with the kicker that had already missed. So it wasn't like as like ASU would have won the game, but Notre Dame would have won that game. Michigan would have literally won the game on that play if they had spotted it correctly, and then would have went to the playoff, right? And then Ohio State won literally on the next play. So that was up there, but yeah, that no call. So I'm not that like crazy about Texas A&M.
Man, I think about the 2016 college football season a lot. I'm actually a little bit obsessed with it. All right, my 1 unit play. I am taking Alabama -1.5 against Oklahoma. I know Oklahoma beat them earlier this year. I'm not too high on either team, to be honest. I'm not too high on either team and how either team has been playing. Oklahoma, the thing with Oklahoma is that every game that they win is with a really big play or getting the ball in really good field position. Mm-hmm. Like if not for an interception and a couple of really bad special teams flubs by Alabama, they would have won. Alabama should have won that game against Oklahoma. Mm-hmm. And I think if they clean up the mistakes, they'll be able to beat Oklahoma. I think they're a more talented team than Oklahoma. The biggest issue with Alabama is that they're very dependent on their pass game. If their pass game isn't on, they're in a lot of trouble. But I think with Alabama, but the thing with Oklahoma is that they remind me a little bit of the Texans. Like their offense is not great, and they have a lot of ups and downs. They have a lot of ups and downs, Oklahoma. Like we've seen it throughout the season. They got killed by Texas because John Mateer had an off night. They almost lost to Auburn. If not for a couple of bad calls, they would have lost to Auburn. And they were fortunate to beat LSU. So I think Oklahoma actually has the potential to get exposed here.
Yeah. All right. My 2 unit play, I'm going James Madison first half plus 17.5. I think that Oregon will run away with this game in the second half. I think JMU could keep it semi-close, and they don't even have to keep it that close because I just need 17.5. Sorry, that's the wrong line. I'm sorry.
That can't be right.
Yeah, it's wrong. It's 12.5. My fault. I was reading the wrong one. 12.5. Either way, they don't have to keep it that close because I just need 12.5. I just think that this is a game where Oregon maybe wins by a lot, but it really turns it on, and maybe halftime I could see it being like a 10-point game, like, oh, look at James Madison, here we go. But James Madison have a good defense too, so I don't know how if Oregon's going to put it all on them right away. So I'm going to take them at least covering the first half spread. So I got them plus 12.5.
Yeah, that would be very characteristic, actually, of Oregon, because sometimes they do struggle in the first half against these. They've had
a bit of like a Eagles season to some extent, where they don't always play two halves of football.
Yeah, don't forget last year when the season started. Remember, they almost lost to Boise State. They ended up winning. That would have been like one of the biggest upsets in college football history, and then they kind of, when the playoffs came around, they forgot how to play again. But I actually kind of like that pick. I
don't know if it would have been one of the biggest upsets in college football history, but yeah.
I said it would be up there.
Okay.
It'd be one of them.
Boise State was a playoff team last year.
You're right. That's true. But nobody really knew that when they were playing. And I do have a bone to pick, not with you, but just with the television networks or whoever controls this. Why is the 7:30 game and the 3:30 game Ole Miss and Tulane and James Madison?
Yes, correct. And the Miami game's at noon. Yes, I know.
Like, what the hell are they thinking?
I know that was terrible. Well, what they're thinking is they're going to get curb stomped at that time. Anyway, so let's put the best game at noon.
Oh, because it's competing with the NFL?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I mean, look, I know the NFL is the most popular.
It's terrible that the NFL did that, by the way.
Yeah, fuck them. I mean, look, the NFL is the most popular sport and they can do whatever they want, but I'm watching the college football playoffs over the Eagles Commanders. Like, I'm definitely.
But the second game, we'll get into it with the NFL. The second game is terrific. But yeah.
All right. My 2-unit play. I'm actually taking Miami plus 3.5 against Texas A&M, largely for the same reason you said, or what I also said, which is Texas A&M has gotten exposed a little bit. This is going to be a very difficult game for them. It's going to be probably the second or third toughest game that they've played all year, certainly up there. And I think that A&M, I don't trust them to cover the 3.5 because I think they can win this game, but I don't think they're going to be playing 60 minutes of football. Like, I think that's been an issue with A&M.
Yeah.
And look, remember they were down 30-0 at halftime against South Carolina.
30-3, yeah.
South Carolina,
30-3. And yeah, they should have lost that game. They got very lucky to win that game. Very lucky. Yeah, I'm with you. All right, 3-unit play. I am taking Tulane plus 17.5. That line is actually 17.5. Plus 17.5 against Ole Miss. A few factors here. Tulane is the better Group of 5 team by far. They are much better than James Madison. They were in the rankings, the top 25 going into the last week of the season. They beat another team that was in the top 25 pretty handily in the conference championship game. They are the best team of the Group of 5. They are the team that I think was more deserving of being in. I have a bigger problem with James Madison being in. Tulane did play a tough schedule this year too, compared to James Madison. So I'm fully fine with them being in. The other biggest factor is this: people are going to forget that because it happened, a few weeks ago, and a lot of stuff has happened in the news, especially in college football, that Ole Miss do not have a coach right now. People remember that, but when they're looking at this game, they're looking at it as Ole Miss and Tulane. I don't think that they're looking at it as Ole Miss with a new head coach. Half of the players, especially possibly Trinidad Chambliss and a couple of other stars, with possibly one mind in Mississippi and one mind in Baton Rouge. I think that this is a game that is going to be closer than people think. It doesn't even necessarily have to be closer than people think, and you could backdoor this, but I do think that Tulane is going to give a bit of a game here to Ole Miss, because Ole Miss, not only is Tulane a decent team, but Ole Miss are not in the place that they were before Lane Kiffin left.
Yeah, I like that pick a lot, actually. The thing with Ole Miss is that, look, when your coach leaves, that's obviously going to be very tough on the team. We don't really know what the team's going to look like without Lane Kiffin yet. But the thing is, now it is true that Ole Miss destroyed Tulane earlier this year. I don't think it's going to look that bad. The thing with Ole Miss is that like earlier this year, it's very underrated how much they were struggling. Earlier this year. I mean, they got a lot better throughout the season, but if you look at the beginning part of the season, I mean, they struggled against Kentucky, they struggled against Arkansas, they struggled to beat LSU and Washington State. Like, if you look at their resume throughout the season, it wasn't really until October that they really started to turn things on. I mean, they struggled against Washington State. They're goddamn terrible. So, and also, it is worth noting, Ole Miss doesn't get away from teams very easily. No, they don't really like break away.
They don't have the defense to do that.
Yeah, their defense is not great. All right, my 3-unit play, I am taking the Alabama-Oklahoma under 40.5. I think this game is just going to be a classic under game. Oklahoma's offense tends to struggle to score. And if Alabama cuts down on mistakes on defense and on special teams, I think they win the game outright. And the game stays under, because I think that Oklahoma's defense will give Alabama's offense some fits. I think that will happen, but I don't think Oklahoma scores a lot. That's the biggest issue.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And, I think Alabama's offense has gotten exposed late in the season.
Yeah. Well, certainly in the SEC championship game. I like that too. I didn't take that in my picks, but I probably will actually take that on Saturday afternoon. Or whenever they're playing Friday night. All right. What do we have? A 4-unit play. I am taking Montana State -4.5 against Montana in the FCS semifinals. Montana State have a much better defense than Montana. They played a tougher schedule, and most importantly, they won this game in Montana just a few weeks ago. They won by 3. They could have won by a lot more. Montana State is home here in a rivalry game in the playoff with a chance to go and probably play Villanova for the FCS championship. So I am taking them laying 4.5 at home in the FCS semifinals.
I'm surprised you have an FCS game as a unit so high. All right, my 4-unit play, Miami, Texas A&M over 51.5. Texas A&M it's more about Texas A&M than it is about Miami. Texas A&M can score a lot of points and they can get into shootouts. I think this game will be a bit of a shootout. And yeah, I think I really like the over here, 51.5.
Yeah, I love that one. I love that pick. All right, my 5-unit pick is, we just talked about this, Tulane Ole Miss over 55.5. We just talked about how Ole Miss's defense is not good enough to keep them in the game. Or to keep them, that was wrong. To keep them from blowing the game out. Tulane's offense is good enough to keep them in the game and, keep up a little bit with Ole Miss. Ole Miss do have a great offense. 55.5, I don't think is that big a number for these two teams. And I think this is going to be a shootout here. I could see this sort of being a 38-20 kind of game, 41-24, something like that. Give me 38-21, something like that. I just give me the over here. I think Tulane, for the reasons that I talked about, is going to give a bit of a game to Ole Miss. So I think in order to do that, they've got to score. And I don't think that Ole Miss's defense is good enough right now to keep them from scoring about 14 to 20 points. And Ole Miss's offense is good enough to cover the over from there. So give me Tulane Ole Miss over 55.5.
All right, so I actually have Ole Miss -17.5 for my 5-unit play. It is true that they don't break away from teams very easily, but I think the talent gap. Look, it's a little risky taking a team -17.5 without their coach. But the way I see it is, I don't think Tulane is on the same level as Ole Miss, and I could see there being a lot of scoring late in the game. I think Ole Miss. I mean, look, they beat them 45-10 earlier this year. Tulane has, in fairness, for a Group of 5 team, Tulane has played tough competition, but their wins were against some really lousy Power 4 teams. I mean, like their best was probably against Duke. I think it's going to be very difficult for Tulane. So I actually like Ole Miss minus 17.5.
All right, let's go to the league where they play for pay. I'm going to start with my 1 unit pick. If you are watching this game, which we will be watching, you are a true degenerate. You are a true. You have to have a bet on this game to watch this. I am going to take and the rest of the degenerates be with me on this one. The New York Jets plus 4.5 against the New Orleans Saints. Just a sickening late season game. I think that the Jets can compete, by the way. Really took you back to December in 2021. Or was it 2021 or 2019? I think it was. Hold on one sec. It really took you back to 2000 and the 2021. I was right. When the Jets beat the LA Rams, costing them the first pick of the draft, costing them Trevor Lawrence, who was beyond dominant on Sunday, tore the Jets up. But the New Orleans Saints are a terrible team. They won 1 game going into 2 weeks ago. They've won 2 in a row. I don't see them building much on that, to be honest, and continuing. I think they have now. They've certainly played an unbelievable spoiler. But I think now you're playing 2 division leaders and you beat them. Now you play a team that's horrible and not playing for anything. Even though I will say I was a little encouraged by Brady Cook's performance, but I think the Jets can cover this. I think the Jets are a better team than the Saints, just honestly. And I'm going to take the Jets plus 4.5 in New Orleans.
Yeah, I like that pick a lot. I think I could totally see the Jets winning the game when I can totally see the Jets winning the game when you don't want to win the game. So I can totally see that from the Jets.
Which is ironically what the Saints have been doing the last 2 weeks.
Yeah, exactly. So it's true about both teams a little bit. All right. Also, it's like I feel like that half that division is good enough, is playing spoiler. The Saints are playing spoiler. The Panthers are playing spoiler. I mean, how much for a team that's not going to make the playoffs, the Panthers have really affected the playoffs.
I actually don't know if it's so much the Saints playing spoiler as it is the NFC South just sucks.
True. It's probably a little bit of both. Well, that's why they're playing spoiler.
Right.
Is how I would put it. All right. I am taking the Rams minus 1.5 at Seattle. And like we were saying before, the Rams, I just think they look like the best team in the NFL right now. The Seahawks are good, no doubt about it, but I like the Rams here. It's essentially a pick 'em, and I think the Rams pull off the win here. I like the Rams minus 1.5.
All right. Well, let's go to your 2-unit pick then, because I have the same exact pick for my 2-unit pick. I'm taking the Rams.
Really?
Minus 1.5 against Seattle. I agree.
I could tell from the reaction to me giving that pick that you had that exact same pick.
Yeah. Just the thing I'll say on it real quick. Another thing is Seattle is just, for some reason, which is so odd because of the crowd they have and who they've been for the last, basically for their entire franchise. Seattle is a much better team on the road than they are at home.
Yeah, it says, which, by the way, they haven't always been like that. Like the Pete Carroll,
I just said, it's the opposite of what they normally are.
Right. They were like under Pete when they played with like the Pete Carroll, Russell Wilson Seahawks teams. They were a lot like the Packers. They were a really, really good home team. It was a really tough place to play, but they really just weren't good on the road.
Same with the Matt Hasselbeck, Sean Alexander, Mike Holmgren Seahawks too.
Yeah, exactly. So now they're just really good on the road. I think part of it is a little coincidental because a lot of the teams they play on the road just aren't very good, whereas they play better teams at home.
Bless you.
They just play better teams at home. I think that's really just what it is. All right, my 2-unit play. I am taking the Ravens minus 2.5 against the Patriots. This feels a little bit like a trap line. A little bit. I feel like Vegas is begging you to take New England, getting 2.5. It feels a little bit like a trap, and I really look. The Patriots are a good team, but I think they've largely been a product of their weak schedule. I like the Ravens here to minus the 2.5.
All right. My 3-unit pick. I'm taking the Ravens minus 2.5.
I knew it. I can tell from your reaction that you had the same.
This is, by the way, I feel like you might have had the same thought of me. I think that the Patriots remind me a lot of the 2020 COVID year Steelers. They played a really easy schedule. They went 11-0. The Steelers got to then I think they went 11-5 and then lost in the playoffs badly. I could see this still happening. I think the Patriots now are going to hit. They go to Baltimore, then they play the Jets and the Dolphins. But this was the spot where I think their schedule might catch up to them a little bit. And I just don't think they're as good. And I think going into Baltimore on a Sunday night, even with Lamar Jackson not playing the best football of his career right now, I just think that's a tough thing to do.
And also, I will say this, though. I think the difference between the Patriots and Steelers is the Steelers always seem to collapse late in the season. That's the same thing happened last year. Whereas the Patriots historically, especially under a very good coach like Mike Vrabel, I don't think will happen. I don't think they'll totally collapse like the Steelers typically do. And by the way, like we've been talking about this forever. Like I love how like Mike Tomlin is I feel like the only coach in the NFL that can get away with the team collapsing under his leadership every year and can still keep his job. If he was the head coach of the Jets or the Eagles or the Giants or, most other teams in the league, he wouldn't have kept his job. Yeah. But the Steelers, that organization, they're a little bit like like a team like Iowa or Kentucky in college football where they keep their coaches for a long period of time. And all you have to do is win 7 games. It's a little bit like that with Mike Tomlin. They just have to have a winning record.
Yeah, I mean, the Steelers are basically like the Yankees. Like they're just getting a winning record every year. We were a great franchise 30 years ago, whatever. We're still always going to be competitive, but we never have enough offense, ironically, to win the title.
But at least with the Yankees, they're World Series contenders pretty consistently.
Correct, yeah.
The Steelers, they haven't been Super Bowl contenders in a
true.
Yeah. All right, my 3-unit play, I am going with the Raiders plus 14.5 against the Texans. I just think this is too many points, and the Texans don't score enough for me to trust them to cover a spread this big. I mean, the over-under is 37.5. All the Raiders have to do is based on what Vegas is telling you, if the Raiders will score a touchdown, it looks like they're going to end up going.
But I did that this week and I lost because I had over 37.5 and the Eagles scored 31 and the Raiders scored fucking 0.
Yeah, that's no, definitely true. I like the Raiders. I just think the spread is too big. I think the Texans. Yeah. I'm not saying I think this game's going to be close, but the Texans aren't that good. They're not good on the offensive side of the ball. So if you're not good on offense, it's hard for me to take you to cover 14.5 points. It's just too many points.
Yeah. Agree. All right. My 4-unit pick. I am taking the Steelers plus 7 against the Detroit Lions. I just think what we were talking about with the Lions always being in shootouts and stuff, I just don't think it's conducive to them to really blowing teams out, which they really haven't done a ton. They will win this game. They'll be a little desperate. Steelers a little desperate. We'll see what happens tonight with the Steelers, but you're going to have a chance no matter what to take the lead on the division because the Ravens don't play till Sunday night. So the Steelers will be in a position where they're going to feel a little advantageous. And I just think I think the Lions will win the game, but I just don't think that the Lions have the defense, even with a not great Steeler offense, to really blow anyone fully out, especially a team that's fighting for the division in the same way that they are.
All right. My 4-unit play is the Bears plus 1.5 against Green Bay. Going back to Chicago, I think the Bears will win this game. They almost beat them in Green Bay. I think it would make sense for them to split this season. The Packers, look, the Bears have gotten a lot better throughout the season. It's true that they played a very easy schedule and they won a lot of close games, but right now it's like they're beating good teams now. So, or at least coming close to beating good teams. I think the Bears. I can see the Bears winning this out. I mean, 1.5 is basically taking them to win outright. I like the Bears here, and sometimes Jordan Love is just not good. Sometimes the Packers, they're just inexplicably bad at times.
All right, let's go to 5-unit plays. I'm going to take a game that means nothing in the standings, but again, this is where the degenerates thrive to find those lines of games people aren't looking at. Dolphins Bengals over 50.5 in Miami. Nice weather, beautiful weather. No problem there. Bengals didn't score on Sunday, but they're going to play the Dolphins, who are not even on the same level defensively as the Ravens. They are going to put their defense out there that is horrible, and I just think this is legitimately, I think, an easy over 50.5 between the Dolphins and the Bengals with the defenses that they have, and the Dolphins offense can light it up at home sometimes. So this is an easy number for me. I'm taking the Dolphins Bengals over.
I like that pick a lot. I like that pick a lot. My 5-unit play, I actually have the Steelers +7. The Lions, I don't have a ton of faith in their defense, and they get into a lot of shootouts and a lot of close games. I don't think they're quite the same team that they were last year. And I think like the Steelers right now have a lot to play. Both teams have a lot to play for, but I just think 7 points is a little too much. I think the Lions win the game outright, but I think it's going to be within 7. I think it's going to be close.
Yeah, I had the same feeling on that, and I think the Steelers, yeah, they're not a great team, but the Lions, I think that a lot of people, I don't know if you feel the same way, but I think that when a lot of people look at the Lions for some reason this season, they still are looking at last year's team, if that makes sense.
Yeah,
And the Lions just aren't on the level this year that they were last year. A lot of it to do with coordinator switch and different stuff. But yeah, I agree with you. So that was the main picks. There's not going to be I'm just going to say this now. There's not going to be much difference in the standings because we had 4 of the same picks or something like that in the NFL. I just wanted to say real quick before we get to the next picks, just for reference, I finished the NFL season 15 games above 500, 105 units up. Nick finished the regular season of college football 13 games up and 37 units up. And currently right now,
so I'm 13 up in college football.
37 up, 13 games up. 37 units, 13 games. Sorry, yeah.
So I'm 37 units up in college football or the NFL?
I just did for our college football regular season.
Okay.
The NFL, you're currently 4 games under and 18 units under.
Okay.
And our all-time right now as we head into the college football playoff, I am up 139 units and Nick is up 19 units.
Okay.
With that said, let's go into the money line picks of the week. I referenced this already. I am taking Miami plus 135 against Texas A&M. We both talked about this game. We're both on Miami's spread. Again, I just think that Miami is going to come out and beat an exposed Texas A&M team. And I do think that Texas A&M got fat and happy off of their SEC schedule. So I again, for all the reasons that we've given on the show, I'm going with Miami plus 135.
Yeah, I like that pick. My money line winner, I'm taking the Commanders plus 250 against the Eagles. The Eagles have been terrible in division games on the road. They lost to the Giants and the Cowboys. I think it's going to be, I can see the same thing happening here against the Commanders. I really like the Commanders here to actually win this game outright.
Okay. Did you make that pick before or does it affect your pick that they've shut down Jaden Daniels for the year or no?
No, because I didn't think they would.
I was going to give you a chance.
I didn't think he would play.
Okay. All right. Yeah, that makes sense. I agree. So by the way, also to clean up something I said earlier in the show, the Cowboys are not officially eliminated, but they need to win every game, which they play the Chargers, the Commanders, and the Giants. And the Eagles would have to lose every game, or they play the Commanders twice and the Bills once. So it is very the Cowboys are still alive, but they're
in life support.
It would take a lot. Yes, it would take a lot because I agree that I think the Eagles could lose to the Commanders, but I don't think that it would happen twice. It would also be a very, very. I feel like it would be very much like the Eagles this year to lose to the Commanders, beat the Bills, and lose to the Commanders again. Like that. That would be very. Fun.
That's true. Sometimes they just lose to bad teams, especially in their division. It's been happening a lot.
It is, and they've like I don't think that them like. The Eagles win on Sunday, 31-0 against the Raiders, does like literally nothing to change my opinion of the Eagles.
No, not at all.
I feel like all the Eagles could have done on Sunday was hurt themselves. The Eagles could have won that game 81-0. It wouldn't have changed my opinion.
Well, the Raiders absolutely suck this year. They suck worse than we all thought they would.
Yeah, and Max Crosby doing a pregame huddle where he was like, "We make a statement in Philly tonight." All right. Let's go into the college football locks of the week. I am going. So, by the way, real quick, Mendoza won the Heisman. Maybe the biggest scumbag Instagram post and nightclub behavior I've ever seen out of Diego Pavia.
Well, I saw this. I saw this thing on. I think it was Twitter or on Instagram, and it said it was Diego Pavia, and it said, if Axe body spray was a person.
That's good. I mean, first of all, the way that he walked in with the crew was insane. Then when they put on Instagram a picture of everyone and said, "Fuck the voters," is that what it said? "Fuck the voters,"
F the voters,
whatever. And then he was at a nightclub in the city with the signs that they bring to the nightclubs that said "Fuck Indiana." Just a wild.
Why would he do that though? Like the thing is,
sequence.
He destroyed his reputation because look, as a guy who was the quarterback at Vanderbilt, it's like he was like this cool. He was like this underdog story that everybody was kind of rooting for as the quarterback of Vanderbilt, and he just ruined it all.
Yeah.
And by the way, scouts pay attention to that. They pay attention to that a lot with quarterbacks.
Yeah.
It's not like he's a wide receiver. And by the way, did he even think he would win? Everybody thought Mendoza would win.
Mendoza was a heavy favorite. I do think, even though the voting didn't shape out like this, I do think that the Big Ten championship was a winner is going to win the Heisman. I think that Sam would have won if, even though he finished last in voting, you can't really say anything because they did lose that game. But I do think that was that. Liv was never going to win because they're not going to give it to. They weren't going to give it to a running back this year. But. Yeah, I thought Mendoza deserved it. And again, it was just ridiculous. It was just a ridiculous way to act. But anyway, let's get into the locks. I mentioned that because I'm going to take the SEC game. I am taking Alabama, laying 1. I think that Alabama and Oklahoma are both very good teams. And I think that when very good teams play each other twice, a lot of times you will get a split. And Oklahoma already won the game in Alabama. Alabama's out for revenge. Alabama's out to make people. I think also there's going to be a lot of bulletin board material because Alabama's out to make people say, "Oh well, we were wrong. They should be in the playoff." I think Alabama's a much better team than Oklahoma, or not a much better team.
I thought it was ridiculous when people were saying Alabama shouldn't be in the playoff after, like, you want to punish a team for going to the conference championship game and losing,
right? It's something I just think Alabama's a better team, and I've never been sold on Oklahoma the whole year. You know that. We've talked about this on the show. They did deserve the spot they got because of the way that they played, but I've never been high on them, and I love Alabama here.
Yeah, I think that I'm not super high on either team, but I definitely like Alabama a little more. My college football lock is Oregon minus 21.5 against James Madison. I could see this game, like what you said, being a little bit close in the first half, but I think Oregon will break away. And it'll be like a lot of Oregon's games earlier this season in their non-conference games against easy opponents. They just run up the score. I can see Oregon doing the same exact thing. And James Madison played a much weaker schedule than Tulane. James Madison played all group of 5 teams and probably a lot of FCS teams too. And they their only Power 4 game was against Louisville, and they lost that game by quite a lot. Like James Madison, I think that they will get killed by Oregon. They will get killed.
Yeah. All right, let's go into the NFL locks of the week. This will be the biggest shakeup in the standings that we have. I am taking the Packers laying 1.5. My lock of the week 2 weeks ago was the Packers. My lock of the week last week was the Packers. That didn't work out this week, but it did work out against the Bears. I am fully in the camp that the Bears are a completely fraudulent team that has been squeaking out games against easy teams in their schedule. I love the Packers here. I think the Packers are much better than the Bears. I thought that the Packers sort of took their foot off the pedal. Like we talked about this when we talked about the show. When we talked about it on the show 2 weeks ago. I had the Packers as my lock of the week 2 weeks ago. They were minus 5.5. When the Bears tied the game to make it 21 each, I at no point felt nervous. I at no point felt that the Packers were not going to cover that spread. I've always thought the Packers are better. I think they took their foot off the gas for a little bit in that game. If you look at how they played in the first half, Packers are just a better team in my opinion. Bears are not there yet. I'm on the Packers.
I could tell after I gave my Bears pick that you had the opposite pick. I just knew it. All right, my NFL lock of the week is the Bills minus 10 against the Browns. Mm-hmm. The Browns offense absolutely sucked last week. I think the Bills are in much better form than they were. The Browns, they barely last week. I mean, Shedeur Sanders he threw for 177 yards. The Browns scored. Yeah, Shedeur against the Titans. He went 100. Oh no, that's a different game. Last week they went. The Browns went against the Bears. They scored a total of 3 points, and the Bears defense isn't exactly known for being great. Shedeur Sanders went 18 for 35, barely over 50%, and put up 177 yards. I think the Bills run up the score in this game. I think the Bills are in better form than they were earlier this season.
Oh yeah. I think the Bills. I mean, you look at. I mean, the Patriots are going to play the Dolphins and the Jets, so that might be a little tough. But I think the Bills are in a position where they could win this division. It's just one of those things, but I think they're playing well. It's just one of those things where they're just not going to probably be able to overcome who the Patriots are playing. But yeah, I'm with you. I think the Bills are peaking at the right time right now.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. So that is the show. We have a show next week.
Yeah, I think so.
All right. So we will be back next week. Give you a little pre-Christmas money in your pockets. Thank you guys for watching. Thank you for tuning in weekly, and we will see you next week.
You can follow the podcast at MTGPETB. That's my podcast at MTGPETB. This show doesn't actually have a social media yet, but that's the closest. Right. Like it's not our show with MTGP is a little bit like Notre Dame with the ACC. Like it's a different show, but it's like affiliated. Like it's a spinoff of it. If that makes sense. So, yeah, follow the podcast at MTGPETB. See you guys next week.